series is best known for its charity and sacrifices in the Indian tradition since time immemorial. Once the Bodhisattva was born as Vessantara in the dynasty of Sivi in the kingdom of Jataka. King Sanjaya was his father and Queen Sati was his mother. He appeared to be child prodigy because he spoke on the very day he was born. Interestingly, on the same day, a white elephant was born. Isn't it interesting, kids? A white elephant was born. This elephant, who was given the name Pachaya, was gifted with supernatural power to make the rain fall. Pachaya had superpower. Isn't that so cool, kids? So, Vessantara's passion for charity was so intense that the earth trembled when he pledged to make a great gift at the young age of 8. At 16, he married Madi. He had 2 children, Jali and Kanhajina. At that time, there was a great drought in Kalinga. So, 8 Brahmins from Kalinga came to Vessantara to beg for his white elephant to make the rain fall in their country. Vessantara acceded to their request and donated the elephant. When the people of Jataka heard of this news, they were terribly disturbed. Agitatingly, they went to the king and asked him to punish the prince by banishing him to the forest of Vankagiri. The will of the people eventually prevailed and Vessantara had to go on exile, much to the unwillingness of the king. Before setting out, he obtained the king's consent to hold an alms-giving ceremony called the Gift of 700s. On the occasion, he gave away 700 pieces of 700 kings of things to the needy people. When Vessantara took leave of his parents and was preparing to depart, his wife Madi insisted that we accompany him with her children Jali and Kanhajina. So now let's go to the next part. They left the palace in a royal chariot drawn by 4 horses. On the way, 4 Brahmins met him and begged him for his 4 horses. After giving the 4 horses to the Brahmins, when he began to fasten the girth tightly around his waist to put himself under the yoke and to drag the carriage, there appeared 4 yakas in the form of red deer. 4 yakas. My goodness. This is going to be interesting, kids. Stay put. They put their shoulders under the yoke like well-trained, excellent horses and drew his carriage. When Madi was staring at them with joy and surprise, the Bodhisattva said, "No, the influence of the benevolent forest, of the hermitage, that the best of the deer extended hospitality to the forest guests so ardently." The queen, however, remarked, "You may conceal your merits and say so. I call this to be your influence, like the laughing lotuses which surpass the beauty of the stars mirrored in water, exposing so fully to the curious gaze of the radiant moon with its groping rays for the delightful titillation." At the time, there was a great drought in Kalinga. So, 8 Brahmins from Kalinga came to Vessantara to beg for his white elephant to make the rainfall in the country. Vessantara accepted their request and donated the elephant. When the people of Jataka heard of this news, they were terribly disturbed. Agitatingly, they went to the king and asked him to punish the prince by banishing him to the forest of Vankagiri. The will of the people eventually prevailed, and Vessantara had to go on exile, much to the unwillingness of the king. Before setting out, he obtained the king's consent to hold an almsgiving ceremony called the Gifts of 700. On the occasion, he gave away 700 pieces of 700 all kinds of things to the needy people. When Vessantara took leave of his parents and was preparing to depart, his wife Madi insisted that he accompany him with her children Jali and Kanhajina. So now let's go to the next part. They left the palace in a royal chariot drawn by 4 horses. On the way, 4 Brahmins met him and begged him for his 4 horses. After giving the 4 horses to the Brahmins, then he began to fasten the dirt tightly around his waist to put himself under the yoke and to drag the carriage. There appeared 4 yakas in the form of red deer. 4 yakas! My goodness! This is going to be interesting, kids. Stay put. They put their shoulders under the yoke like well-trained, excellent horses and drew his carriage. When Madi was staring at them with joy and surprise, the Bodhisattva said, "No, the influence of the benevolent forest, of the hermitage, that the best of the deer extended hospitality to the forest guests so ardently." The queen, however, remarked, "You may conceal your merits and say so. I call this to be your influence, like the laughing lotuses which surpass the beauty of the stars mirrored in water, exposing so fully to the curious gaze of the radiant moon with its groping rays or the delightful declaim." So, let's go to the next part. So, when they were thus involved in the pleasant conversation, they encountered one more Brahmin beggar who begged for the carriage. So Vessantara had to part with his carriage. He then lifted his son Jali in his arms and Madi lifted Kankajina, and thus they continued their journey on foot. The sun was scorching, so the cloud overspread over her to act as a canopy. The trees extended their branches to offer them delicious fruits as an offering to their virtue of charity. When they longed for water, the lotus ponds appeared before them to quench their thirst. Further, the yakas shortened their path to protect them from extortion. Thus, treading through Suvarnagiritala, Kantimara, their path to protect them from exertion. Thus, treading from faraway places and then by crossing the river Nalika along the bank of Lake Muchalinda and further crossing a dense forest, they finally reached Vankagiri. This is so good. They finally reached Vankagiri, right? Such a long travel, right, for Vessantara. So, let's go to the next part now. Visakama, the engineer of Sata, had already built 2 hermitages for them in the forest. How sweet of Visakama! One was for Vessantara and the other was for the rest of the family. The power of Vessantara was so strong that no wild animal came near the hermitages. You guys too wish your hermitage would be protected this way, right? Yes, kids, I know you want the same thing as Vessantara had it. I know that. Happily, they spent 4 months. So, one day, an old Brahmin named Jataka came to the hermitage when Madi had gone to the forest to bring some fruits for the family. Don't you guys see a slight resemblance to Ramayana? No? Okay, well, let's continue the story then. Accosting Vessantara, he begged for his 2 children, because Amitatapana, his wife, demanded for 2 slaves for herself. How could he do that? I mean, isn't it so weird, kids, of somebody asking the kids as slaves? Very weird. As Vessantara was widely known for his Dana Paramita, the greedy Brahmin was intent on exploiting the situation. So kids, he's a villain over here, so pay attention, right? Vessantara tried to convince the Brahmins to change his mind in several ways. Yet he insisted on accepting nothing but the 2 children. Knowing Jataka's mind, the children were extremely terrified and ran away to a nearby pond and hid themselves. They, however, reappeared when their father called them. And by then, Vessantara had finally agreed to the shrewd demand of Jataka. Of course, what could Vessantara could have done? He had to follow the sage. The Brahmin then, chanting some phrases, children who did not want to leave flew to the feet of their father to ask Jataka to wait at least the arrival of their mother. But shrewd and mean Jataka, without wasting time, fastened the hands of the 2 delicate children with a creepier and forcibly dragged them to his destination. The bleeding and bewailing children, however, screamed. Oh, the mother will certainly cry like the Jataka upon return, whose little ones are killed. How would she act when she comes back with many roots and fruits gathered from... Oh, the mother will certainly cry like the Jataka upon return, whose little ones are killed. How would she act when she comes back with many roots and fruits gathered from the forest, but finds the hermitage empty? Oh, father, I have many toys, horses, elephants, and chariots. Give half to mother to assuage her grief. When Madi returned late in the evening and did not find her children around, she asked Vessantara of their whereabouts. But Vessantara kept silence. She then repeated the same question several times. But yet Vessantara did not. When Madi returned late in the evening and did not find her children around, she asked Vessantara of their whereabouts. But Vessantara kept silence. How could he keep silence when the children have been taken by some stranger? She then repeated the same question several times. Yet Vessantara did not utter a single word. So she again went inside the forest and looked for the children for the whole night. Next morning when she returned, she fainted. Oh no! Vessantara then had to regain consciousness. That was the time he apprised her of the whereabouts of her children and narrated the story. By then, Madi had mustered up the courage to endure the trauma. Surprisingly, she praised Vessantara's great act of Danasila. Their sacrifice trembled the earth, and so did Mount Sineru with all its resplendent gems. By then, Madi had mustered up the courage to endure the trauma. What a strong lady Madi must be. Surprisingly, she praised Vessantara's great act of Danasila. Their sacrifice trembled the earth, and so did Mount Sineru with all its resplendent gems. Surprised, Saka, the lord of the Devas, inquired into the cause. When he learned the cause of the quakes owing to the sacrifice of Vessantara, he visited the hermitage next morning to test the firmity of his vow in the guise of a mendicant and begged him for his wife. Even then, Vessantara did not lose the firmness of his mind and nodded to donate Madi as well. Besides, no anger sprang even in the heart of Madi. She did not wail. She rather looked stupefied and stood like a statue with her eyes fixed on her husband with a fresh load of suffering. So kids, as you see, Madi is such a strong lady to be, not having a sort of an emotion in her face. She supported her husband in every which ways. She had no choice whatsoever but to, go by what the gods and the sages had to say. So kids, but in real life, kids, remember, if any stranger comes to you, never follow them, okay? Admiringly, Saka then said, though a householder, yet giving up the most beloved children and wife in charity, with such detachment, can there be a greater exemplification of magnanimity? Now it was a time for Saka to reveal his identity. He gave Madi back to Vessantara. Furthermore, he offered 8 boons to the great donor, which included the reunion of the family, his recall to the fathers. Now it was the time for Saka to reveal his identity. Now we'll get to know the real self of Saka. Isn't that cool, kids? He gave Madi back to Vessantara. Furthermore, he offered 8 boons to the great donor, which included the reunion of the family, his recall to the father's kingdom, and his ability to benefaction. Now let's go to the next part. In the meanwhile, Jataka had travelled 60 leagues and having lost his way, he reached Jataka, though he intended to reach Kalinga. His rugged appearance and harsh behavior with the 2 delicate children attracted the royal guards, who brought him before the king. King Sanjaya, when saw his grandchildren and learned their story, he brought them back from the cruel Brahmin in lieu of handsome gifts and 7-storied palace. Imagine kids, 7-storied palace. Wow! But Jataka could hardly enjoy those riches as he died of overeating in a few days. The villain died, kids, so let's party! The king, along with Kusati, Jali and his army, then marched to Vankagiri to bring back his son and the daughter-in-law. The white elephant Pachaya also joined in the procession as he had just returned from Kalinga, as no one could subdue him there. Finally, after a month of merrymaking in the forest, they all returned to the kingdom happily. So kids, here's the story for today. Thank you so much. Bye.